In this video, we have a deep dive discussion on how to get over your fears and any resistance you have to getting coaching clients, because it's the most common thing we get asked. We're going to go over the top 11. It's taking everything in me to not make a comment about the mean thing you said just before we hit record that I won't subject our viewers to. The top 11.
Believe that I'm mean for 1 second.
Reasons that coaches resist charging. So in this discussion here, we're going to break down the top 11 reasons that coaches resist charging and what the solution is for each one of these reasons, right? So listen to the whole thing. You can speed up the video if you want. Like, that's been a game changer for me. I don't hardly ever watch any videos on normal speed unless I'm watching music videos. So speed it up if you want to go through it a little bit quicker, but engage with it. You know, if there's anything that we talk about that really lands for you, type it in the comments. Let us know that this lands for you. Ask whatever questions that you have if anything comes up as we go through this list, and we do the best to respond as much as we can. So I'm going to throw this over to you. You're going to lead this primarily because it comes out of your calls with a lot of our coaches that are going through our trainings, or just people that you're talking to in the industry and so forth. So take it away.
Yeah, you got it. So one of the things that I hear a lot is especially from coaches that they've gone through a certification program and they feel like they have some skills up under their belt, is that they just kind of feel bad about charging. Like, this industry is something that, you know, we're here to help people, right? And I don't know, like, it just feels like this is this thing that I've been doing for a long time. And maybe if you're somebody watching this video and you've been the person in your family, right, that people go to for support, or you're the one in your friend community that, you know, you've been helping people for a long time and you've been doing that thing for free, there's some resistance that comes up around starting to charge and about treating this like a business and being bold in your offers, right? This is what I do, and this is how much it costs. And so I just started thinking about, why is it, right? Like, why is it that we have this resistance? And I was totally awkward about this early on in my coaching journey. Are you shocked that I was awkward?
You awkward?
I saw your face.
No, that doesn't equate to me. Your earring looks dry, by the way, so that's good. You must have dried it off.
I got new ones. Like,
oh, perfect.
Yeah, maybe 30 seconds before we hopped on to do this recording, my earring fell off and into my water glass, which is pretty impressive. Like, the ability there.
Yeah, that's good aim.
I'm pretty talented. Early on in my journey.
Yeah, I don't. What's that?
I was just going to say that I was fine. I felt like what I believed is that if I helped people enough, right? Like, if I was just a good enough helper for them and I provided enough value and provided enough transformations, that they would, like, sell themselves to me, right? Like, that if I just, you know, did a good job, that they would pay me, which, I mean, we've done a lot of videos about, like, that employee mindset, which I just heard, like, being at play there. But that's really what it was. I was very resistant to even asking people for money. I just thought that they would say, oh, you really helped me a lot. How can I charge you for this? Mm-hmm. So this is something that, or how can I pay you for this? This is something that I really personally worked through as well early on. So I think it's pretty common. Was this something that you ever, like, did you ever have any resistance to this?
No.
I
don't have any problems.
No problems
or
at all.
challenges. So
Yeah,
don't ask me questions like that while we're live on the air.
you got it.
Um, so the short answer is yes. I don't know how long I was in that place. And one of the reasons that it's hard for me to answer that question in the context of this is because I never wanted to be a coach in the beginning. And coaching was like not even a big thing when I started. I just wanted to be a speaker. And so I ended up kind of backing into coaching because somebody at one of my speeches hired me as a coach. And it it wasn't something that I aspired to be, this coach. But my first sales pitch, I actually just found the footage recently of this. You're going to have to pay, or you'd have to start a crowdfunding campaign for me to release that footage, I think. My first pitch from the stage, though, was, I mean, awful is kind. So the first time that I tried to sell something was so incredibly uncomfortable. But I moved through it pretty quickly. And I think one of the reasons I moved through it is because I was selling primarily just physical products. I was selling things that we had made, CDs, or things that were delivered on the website. So it was like this secondary thing that they were buying after my speech. And the reason I think that's important is because I really wasn't on the menu, me personally. I mean, of course, those were my things, but they were still things. They weren't me as the coach, as the facilitator, as the person that you're hiring. Even though I am the person that made those things, there was just a disconnect there. My identity wasn't in the thing that they were saying yes or no to. So that separation helped me get over my fear of sales, I think, a lot quicker than coaches are doing nowadays. And this was 17 years ago. So this is pre-social media. This is before internet marketing has taken hold the way it has now. So I think because there's so much competition now, and there's so much focus on sales, and in the coaching industry, almost the entire name of the game is get clients. Right. So I think one of the big things that's at play is you are a successful coach if you can get clients, and you're not a successful coach if you don't. That's creating a lot more pressure on just the target of getting clients. So I think all of that is unique to today's world. Maybe not unique, but it's just different than what I personally had to deal with. But even though my identity wasn't on the sales menu, it wasn't on the order sheet in the very, very early days. I mean, yeah, I mean, you talk about, I mean, I was pooping my pants, to the point where in my head, I knew it was time to offer what I wanted to offer at this event. And I was going back and forth on whether I was going to do it. Like, I don't know, maybe, you know what? And it probably a little bit was like what you said, maybe they'll just ask me if they can pay me something later. You know, I'm being a good guy here. I'm not going to sell them, and all the things that were going on in my head. Right. So I had convinced myself back and forth on stage, and then I went ahead and vomited out the sales pitch. And it was just, I mean, it was just atrocious. One person in a group of about 100 purchased, but I actually never took his money. He put his information down, credit card. I never charged the card. To this day, never charged it. I'm not talking about like never until the next week. I never took his money. So there's all kinds of stuff there, I'm sure. But I want to highlight something that I said based on what kind of how you teed this up earlier. There's so much focus on getting clients, get clients, get clients, get clients. It's the number one commonly asked how-to strategic question, I think, in the coaching industry. How do I get clients? And because of that, there's way too much pressurized attention on getting clients. And I think that's one of the reasons that people really struggle with this, because there's so much acute focus on this particular issue, is how do I get clients? So we need to understand that all of that's at play. That's what we're being programmed with, and it's lighting up a lot of our insecurities. And we're seeing a bunch of programs out there that are teaching us how to get clients. And I think a lot of us are now buying a lot of those programs, and we're still feeling resistance towards it. So the how-to information or the sales tactics and templates are actually not overcoming or overriding the resistance. Anyway, that's my overall like high level look down at this industry based on how you teed this up.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing to consider though, what you just said, right? Because we need to understand sometimes when we're in something like so much and we're so focused on it, we don't actually realize like the container that we're operating inside of. So we don't see those bigger things at play until they're pointed out to us.
Yeah, it's blinding to a degree. You can focus on something so hard that you lose track of everything else. You know, that's kind of that tunnel vision idea. And I absolutely agree with what you said. You just focus on this and put a lot of pressure on it and put a lot of attention on it and put your identity into it and put your, you know, put your emotions into it and put your back into it. I couldn't not say that.
Exciting.
I know, because the hip hop song was just playing in my head. Come on, you could do it. Put your back into it. Anyway, so
it's hard. I'm kidding.
And you said something that is going to apply to pretty much all of these things. As we were briefly looking at this list that you put together, we have videos that go deeper on pretty much all of these things. Some of them we have full playlists on all of these things. So as we go along, we'll either put cards up in the video here or put links down in the description for really each one of these topics.
Yeah.
So let's dive in. Top 11 reasons.
Yeah, coaches resist charging for coaching. I think one of the biggest things that's underlying is that we've just been programmed that helping people is something you do for free. And
so this is number one, right?
This is number one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of us equate helping people for free, like being something that we do for free. If we're helping someone, it's just it's a give, it's a gift. It's not something that we charge for. And I think a lot of us are being like unconsciously, like we're running from that programming, whether it comes from our families or it comes from like just religious programming, what we grew up with, and that we have this desire to be good people. And if good people help people, and helping people means you do something for free. And yet almost everybody that I talk to who's a coach got into coaching because they want to help people, then it's going to make it really challenging to charge for that until we work around that belief that's probably unconsciously driving the decision to not charge.
Yeah, I think the big thing that you mentioned is being a good person. If we help people and that means being a good person, and being a good person doesn't charge people, that is such a deep-seated belief that tactics and logic and reasoning and charge what you're worth and all the things that we see in the coaching industry don't have the power to override that belief. So that's like a game over belief right there. Until we are able to have this belief itself broken through and untie this knot. And specifically what I mean is that good people can charge money while helping people. Until that's okay inside your belief system, nothing else is really going to work. And that's, I think, part of the impetus of this video is that there's a lot of frustration out there that people have done all the things they think they should do. They actually believe in themselves or they believe in the product. And yet there's still this resistance. And uncovering these deep-seated identity core beliefs is really important, because like we can't help you, right? And it's not that we can't help you change this belief. The good news is we absolutely can. But until that belief gets changed, nothing else is going to help, because that belief of retaining your good person identity who helps people is going to overpower everything that your ego says. No, but we got to make money and we got to pay the bills. And I already quit the job and I got all this pressure on me. None of that stuff is going to override. And if it does override it, it will override it with conflict already built in. So if we pressurize ourselves to override the good person identity belief, you know, I guess you could build a business like that with almost threats and shame or pressure, but it won't feel good. And it's because it won't be built upon the idea that you're a good person helping good people. So this is a really important piece, and it's super common. So any of you watching this, if you can relate to this, drop a comment and just let us know that this is something that you do relate to. And what we're telling you is this is the seed. You know, if this doesn't shift, then all the things that most people are buying and all the things that most people are selling just doesn't have the power to override this one. So what is the answer? What's the solution to this belief that we're talking about with good people don't charge?
Yeah. So some sort of like, is it a lobotomy where you?
I was going to say drugs, but
oh,
drugs plus a lobotomy.
or plus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Both. Yeah. I mean, do you want to talk about the lobotomy more?
I was just, no, what I was wanting to do is just say, okay, if any of you don't know my sense of humor, like, cause a lot of people are watching these videos for the first time. And so that was actually a joke. I don't believe in that as the answer.
Me either.
Yeah. So you were going to talk about a lobotomy, which I don't really fully understand that word, but that word's a scary word to me because that could mean all kinds of things. And I don't even want to take a shot at where you were going with that.
I think, I'm not going to Google it, but I think that it means like to have, like to do something with your brain, like to remove something from your brain.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's different.
Which is more in alignment
than a vasectomy or a.
Yes. Well, no, I mean, it's still removing something.
Got it.
Same.
So like a belief lobotomy is what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to uproot this belief, man. What you said, Sean, is so powerful, which is it's a stop, right? So if this belief is what's driving us, then we're not that's a hard stop, right? We cannot overpower that. Our unconscious mind is 100% going to lead in our actions. And it doesn't matter what we try to put on top of it or in the way to overcome it. It's not going to go any further. So if you have any belief about, and this, connects with like fun, like financial, I was going to say fun, which is great because it's financial. So money or financial beliefs that you have about like what a good person, does or doesn't do and charging for helping people, or if, you believe that like, these people, they need help, so I should give it to them for free. All of that is wrapped up in your identity and beliefs as a good person. And we have to, get in there and do the work to allow you to have the space to believe that you actually can help people and you can charge for it. So my invitation is to work with somebody one-on-one. We in our company offer free, complimentary, no strings attached, one-on-one coaching consultations. There's a link in the description for you to get on the calendar, book a call to discuss what that could look like for you. And if it's not with us and not with, one of our coaches, then you got to do that work with your coach somewhere else, because there's no getting around this if you want to build a business. Now, if you want to run coaching as like a nonprofit, you want to just give free coaching services, I think that's fantastic. But if you want to be able to have this, bring in income and be something that you build a business, we've got to do the work with this belief.
Yeah. And too many people are trying to find the quick solution to a long-standing problem. And the word that comes up to me as you were talking about that comes up for me is capacity. Our beliefs only have a capacity for certain things, and they don't have a capacity for other things. And so if we have a belief that doesn't have the capacity for financial success, that belief must change. If that belief doesn't change, then we cannot stuff financial success into a belief that doesn't have a capacity for financial success. Now, I'm using belief as a singular term, but the reality is we have thousands of beliefs. So it's really a belief system that either has the capacity or doesn't have the capacity for financial success. And if that system does not have the capacity for it, it will sabotage everything that tries to create something it doesn't have the capacity for. So if your belief system needs to change, then it needs to change. Like that is where it's just a hard stop, as you said. Game over. If you don't change a belief system that doesn't have the capacity for something that you want, game over. It's a yes, it's an either or decision that you have to make. You either change the capacity or you give up on that goal. If you're committed to that goal, well, then you have to change the capacity. And that is not a single flip of a switch either, because it's been decades in the making, right? So that's the reality that a lot of people don't want to hear, because we're so ingrained and we're so driven by the microwave mentality. Give me a 30-second solution to a 30-year problem. Well, go to a different channel. So what's number 2?
That's so real.
Okay, you need to breathe that in a little bit.
I needed to breathe that in. Yeah, that's real, but that's, like you just said, Sean, that's who you are. That's who we are. That's what this company stands for. So I love that. Might as well get that out at number 1. Number 2, we try to price way too high, way too fast. There's so much inside of what you were talking about at the beginning, right? About the, get a client and success equals clients. It's not just clients that I hear, it's high ticket clients.
High ticket clients.
High ticket clients. And we did actually an entire video on why it is, right? These are some of the reasons why you might not have high ticket clients. So we'll definitely link to that.
Was that my Jeff Foxworthy video?
Jeff Foxworthy, Mrs. Doubtfire. Yeah.
Boy, that was a good impression.
It was.
Started out as one and ended up as the other.
Yeah, it was good. But there's a lot of really great conversation in that. And the reality is that we get caught up in that, right? Because we want to be successful. I want to be successful as a coach. So it's easy to think that like, okay, so if success, what the industry is telling me is that success means I not only have clients, but success means I have high ticket clients. And that means I got to come out of the gate. I'm brand new, I'm certified, and I've got to be charging these higher, whatever that means to you, $5,000, $10,000 plus coaching packages, that's, if you can do that with the certainty in your body and you're making that bold offer, my guess is you're probably not watching a video about the 11 reasons coaches resist charging for coaching. But in the event that you are, then that's awesome. But I don't believe that's not most of us. And so we have to define what success is for ourselves. And then we've got to give ourselves a place to grow from and not try to, what is it? The cognitive dissonance, right? We're trying to go way, way too big, way too quickly when we don't have the word that you used just a moment ago, Sean. We don't have the capacity for it. We don't feel comfortable or confident in our offers. One of the things that I learned early on in my journey was that I needed to be able to say my coaching prices like I would tell somebody what my address is, right? Or what I would tell them my phone number, right? Just that thing that you just,
which is
rattle
what?
off.
Go ahead and give your address and phone number out. We'll see. I'll tell you how your energy is.
It's 555-555-1212.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's just to be able to say it. And if that means that at the beginning you're charging, $100 or $25 or $5 or $1, because that's where you're at in your certainty, then that, for me, that's the solution. We've got to start smaller and give us a place to grow from. Why are you laughing at my phone number?
No, I'm laughing because when you said what you said about $100 or $5 or $1, my immediate association to that is The Price is Right. Now that has its own hilarious story because of you being on it, but Michelle was on The Price is Right, by the way, and that's as much as we're going to say on this video, but
You will not link to that.
But humor aside, like that's exactly what we need to find is what's the right price. And usually for people in the beginning of their journey of anything, coaching absolutely is the more anxiety you have, the less certainty and confidence you have, the earlier you are in your journey. For most people, the lower that price has to be. So the price is right when you can get out there and say it like your address, or say it with some love. Like, so I want to add my piece of that. I don't think necessarily we have to say our price with zero, let's call it activation, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the activation doesn't necessarily mean fear, and that doesn't necessarily mean your price is too high or too low. It doesn't necessarily mean anything. So I just don't want everybody to think that you've got to be like totally emotionless and you just say the price and so forth, because I don't feel that way when I talk to people about coaching. But it's not just about pricing. A lot of that is much bigger than just the price I'm offering. It's, the work, and I'm basically interviewing somebody for a relationship that we're going to get together with. And, this is going to be a 6-month relationship or a 2-year relationship or whatever. So there's more that come into it for me than just the pricing, but there's nothing wrong with being activated, I think, a little bit. And anyway, that I don't want to go any further than that, because like you said, we've already done videos on this and we'll link to that stuff. The idea that you can just charge whatever, like your right price can be low in the beginning, is the exact opposite of what most of the coaching industry teaches, because the majority of our egos want higher prices. So it's attractive to figure out the tactics, or to learn the tactics, somebody to tell us the tactics that are going to get people to pay us higher dollar amounts, especially when a higher price equals higher value for me as the person. We'll get into that because I think that's one of the bullets later. That connection itself is what causes us to want the higher prices, as well as the industry focusing on it, all the things we've talked about so far. So having said that, what's the answer in your mind?
Yeah,
is it just what you said, is lower the price and just get in motion and get charged? Okay.
Yeah. Lower the price. I mean, I love what you said about the activation. That's different for me than fear, right? Or saying anything like, oh, well, Sean said I should charge this, or Michelle said I should charge this. Like whatever just feels like right for you, feels like, it doesn't mean you're not going to be uncomfortable a little bit saying it when you've never said it before, but something that you actually believe in. That's gotta be it. So what I tell coaches is I'm like, start with a number. And if you check in with your body and you feel that resistance, lower it by $50, lower it $100. Say it again, right? It's 3 months of coaching for $1,000. How does that feel in your body? And when you get to a place where you don't feel that like fear resistance, start there. That's the place to start with your pricing.
And then how often do you think people can raise their prices?
After every single time they make an offer.
Right. So that's a really important piece. That you can literally offer somebody a price at 10 a.m. and let's say they purchase your coaching services at $50 an hour and you think that's too low, then on your 12 p.m. call, offer $75. Like
that's right.
That's not a lack of integrity, in my opinion. I think to a lot of people, it is. And I think that's a much bigger conversation about our decisions and the finality of the choices that we make and so forth that we won't get into here. But we're always going to raise our prices. I mean, that's the nature of inflation. That's the nature of doing business. And who says you can't that the time period between lower price and higher price can't be an hour on the same day. It absolutely can. So our experience is when you charge for your coaching services, you're now a professional coach, and it's actually easier. And this is research, you guys. This is not our theory. It's easier to charge lower prices, get paid as a coach, assuming that you are confident and certain and all that stuff, get paid as a coach, do really good work, and increase your prices to the numbers that if you try to charge out of the gate, your own internal resistances might take 6 months before you get a client at that rate. You might get a client at that rate next week because you can go faster to that number when you're in motion and you're getting paid as a coach. And we're just telling you what we've learned. We're reporting what we've done personally so that we get out of this theoretical charge what you're worth kind of conversation that is not wrong. It's just not useful for most people that we talk to, because how do you, like, it sounds fantastic to charge what you're worth. Well, what the hell are you worth? Like, that's the scariest conversation that most of us have with ourselves, because we don't feel like we're worth much. So how do you put a price tag on what you're worth, especially when one of your biggest belief challenges is your value as a person? Like, that's just not an easy conversation to get a resolution on. That's why, in my experience, people really struggle with that. So it's one of those things that's simultaneously intriguing and attractive, but it actually shuts more people down than it liberates. But damn, it sounds so good. Charge what you're worth. I want to get paid what I'm worth. Well, maybe your worthiness needs to be fulfilled before somebody pays you. And then actually you can charge higher prices, because what you'll recognize is whether somebody pays you $5,000 or $500 or $5, none of that should increase your internal perception of your value as a human being. So that needs to get handled first, and then the prices can skyrocket. All right, number three.
Exclamation point. Number three. Yeah, they haven't. Really?
Not awkward though.
Okay. I'll do better next time. Number three, they haven't actually paid for coaching. So it's going to be real hard internally for you to try to sell something that you haven't actually put out money for. I mean, this is just.
Yeah, let's just stop there. Because
Okay.
if we go any far beyond that, number three is gonna be a long conversation. And like you said, we've already done videos on it. So yeah, we'll point you to the deep dive discussion around that if you want. It's just, and again, we're not coming from this philosophical place. We're just telling you what we know, what we've seen, what we've experienced. It's incredibly difficult internally to sell something you haven't bought.
Number four.
Number four. Well, so what's the answer to that one? Pay for coaching. Buy the thing you're trying to sell. Period. All right.
Yeah. So good. Number four, they aren't sold on the actual transformation that their work provides, right? And
related to number three.
Related to number three. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just, I don't want to say it's easy, because it's not like easy, because there are these internal resistances. But man, when I knew, right, when I knew what was actually possible with this work, because I had experienced one-on-one coaching, and because I had been in rooms, right? Like, we have online certification programs where you're able to witness transformation, not that you're necessarily experiencing personally, but you're seeing it happen in other people. when you know what's possible and you watch people, their skin changes, the way they move through the world change, you see their beliefs shift, you see them doing things that they weren't doing before. That is something where, for me, I was like, people, they like, do y'all know this is possible? Do you guys know this is possible? I can help you do this thing in your life too. And that being sold on the act of the transformation and what's really possible made it so much easier for me to make these offers and start getting in people's faces about what they had to experience. Where do you flash into? I feel like there's something. There's a memory.
So you can coach me into different skin.
Again.
I obviously know what you're thinking of, but last night we just watched the Spider-Man movie where one of the characters figured out how to change himself into a lizard. And so that was my flashback. Like, I want to change like my skin. Can you turn me into lizard skin or turtle skin?
Yes.
Or something. Jokes aside, like there is physical transformation that people experience, and it does look like their skin has changed, like wrinkles are gone, like, you know, just a different energy is coming out of their face. And I've experienced that, and you've experienced that personally. So this idea of what's truly possible is a primal desire. And what I mean by that is it's this deep core important value that we're operating with. It's like fuel for this whole conversation. If you don't know what's really truly possible for people, either because you haven't experienced it yourself or you haven't watched other people experience it, it's just going to be really difficult to overcome a lot of these challenges, because a lot of these challenges that we all experience are ego challenges. They're self-preservation, self-protection, their fear of failure. They're all ego challenges for the most part. And so if you don't have something that's bigger than the ego or stronger than the ego, then it's going to be really difficult to overpower those challenges. And this feeds back into number one, really, and a lot of these things are going to feed into each other. And you know, the pricing conversation as well. Like, if we haven't experienced this work, then it's going to be hard to put a price tag on it. It's going to be hard to believe that it's actually good work that good people do. So all these things really feed into each other. And so the solution to this is what?
Well, the body. No, I'm kidding. So the solution is the private coaching. Give yourself that experience of what's actually possible for you, and then get in rooms, right? So we have an online certification course, breakthrough coaching certification program, which you can look. There's a link in the description. We have a 5-day deep dive training program called Elite Coaching Certification Program. You've got to get into rooms where you're witnessing coaching demonstrations, where you're practicing as the coach, you're practicing where you're receiving the coaching as the client, and you're seeing what's actually happening, so you can increase your belief level in what is actually possible and in your ability to be able to facilitate that in another human being. That's the solution, to sell yourself on transformation.
Yeah, well stated. And if it's not with us, then if it's with somebody else, that's fine. But if there's a lack of belief in transformation, then that's the thing that's got to be sold. Another thing that I thought about as you were saying that, though, is a lot of people are trying to sell the wrong thing. A lot of people actually do believe in a certain kind of transformation that they have experienced, but they're trying to sell something different. So a lot of this comes down to alignment, where, you know, if it goes back to what we said, if you're trying to sell something you don't fully believe in, whether it's because you haven't paid for coaching or because who cares why, then that's just going to be a perpetual belief conflict that you're going to have to overcome. And rather than overcoming it with willpower and motivation and all the things that people use that generally don't work, put the target where the target belongs and get sold on this thing that you are wanting to sell.
Well said. Number 5.
Mambo, number 5.
Thank you. Their self-esteem is in their offer. So you touched on that a little bit in trying to price too high, too fast, where we put our worth all wrapped up in the offer, and then we're not actually selling. We make the sales conversation about us, right? Instead of about advocating for the client. And we're not doing this consciously. I did it. So I'm not a bad person. It's just when we have kind of twisted that our worth is when people say yes, right? Then I'm good when people say yes. And if people say no, then I'm bad. When we're making those meanings, we're connecting those dots for ourselves. Then when we make an offer to somebody, we're basically saying, not, here's what my coaching package looks like. Here's what this could look like for you. Tell me what your thoughts are. We're saying, can you approve of me? Right? Am I worthy? Am I a good person? And that's a lot of pressure to put on a prospect who, is talking to you for you to help them. And we don't mean to do it, but we've gotten those two things kind of tangled together. And that's just in our programming, I think, as human beings.
Yeah. And it's in direct conflict of what you said at the very beginning of the video, is that we're here to help people. Yeah. And so if our desire to help people is in direct conflict with our offer, meaning that we are showing up to try to get a yes and not a no, then that means even though we have a desire to help people, we're really just trying to get people to like us. And that's our ego trying to protect ourselves. So if our activities in trying to sell coaching is an action of self-protection, then we're actually not trying to help people in that moment. At least in that moment, there's a conflict. I'm acting in a way where I am the most important thing here, but I'm driven in a way where they are the most important thing. And so when your actions are now operating in opposition of your values, we have a problem. And so the answer is alignment and changing the beliefs and a lot of things that we just talked about. So you mentioned good or bad, right? If they say yes, I'm good. If they say no, I'm bad. There's a couple other frames that I want to put on that. Because for some people, it's right or wrong, which is aligned. It's a parallel conversation with good or bad. But if they say yes, then my offer is right, then my pricing is right, then my framework is right, then my coaching is right, then what I'm trying to do right now with my life is right. And if they say no, then all of those things are wrong. But you also touch on something that adds a whole nother level to the yes or no, which is validity. If they say yes, then I'm valid. If they say no, then I'm not. So that kind of dichotomy where if this, then that, if they say yes, then I'm good, then I'm bad. Or if they say yes, then I'm either good, right, or valid, or all three. If they say no, then I'm bad, wrong, or invalid. If you're operating with that frame, game over, like truly game over. If you're operating with that frame of mind, there is no way to win. Because you're either going to fail because you're operating with that frame of mind, or, and this is worse, you're going to succeed with that frame of mind in the form of financial, tangible, what society defines as success. And that's actually way worse. Yeah. To financially succeed with the frame of mind that is eventually going to crush you. Like the more success you put on that frame of mind, the more pressure you're just going to have and the less fulfilled you're going to be. So what we're highlighting is the frame of mind is the problem here. and we've talked about this, and we're going to continue talking about this, and we're going to do a whole program on this. This is all about alignment, you guys. And what's right or good or valid for you could be the exact opposite for somebody else, or vice versa. So this isn't about chasing the right answers. It's about chasing and creating and discovering your right answers. That right there is a complete mind shift that almost everybody needs and very few people make. The right thing to my right thing. The next step to my next step.
Right.
That's everything. That's why it comes down to alignment. So just, I mean, I'll just highlight what you said about self-esteem. If your self-esteem is in the offer, if a yes is a cause for elation and a no is a cause for misery, then if that doesn't change, you can't win.
You know, you've said this before in a different context, but what just occurred to me is that when we're doing that, we're actually making like our client or our prospective client, we're making them like the thing to overcome, right? We're making them the enemy, or we're making them the bad guy that has like the power to cause this in our
We're giving them the
right?
power of validation.
Right.
Yeah. I'm glad you used enemy in that. I mean, because I don't think anybody would consciously go, yeah, my prospect is the enemy.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, they are.
Mm-hmm.
And even if the prospect itself is not the enemy, you know, I didn't mean to say itself, because that's a total dehumanization of this person, but it's actually what happens. So I didn't mean to say it, but that's actually what happens, because now this isn't another human on the other side of this conversation that you're really trying to help. It's a potential misery or elation, like, provider, you know,
Right.
this person, which then becomes this thing, is going to either make you somebody or make you nobody. And it might feel, or you might think that we're over dramatizing this, but if anything, we're under dramatizing this. Because if we're going to talk about this to the level that it deserves in terms of how common it is and how deep it is, you know, this would have to be a sleepover video. You have to get out your sleeping bags, you know, be here for a while.
Yeah.
And again, we're just reporting what we've seen, you know, well over 20 plus years combined, Michelle and I, in this industry. And these are the things that really, truly stop people.
And here's the thing, if it's happening with you, it's happening with you, right? So this is not like, oh, you're a bad person, you check off all these things, right? Like it's
or you're weak and you're unmotivated, or
yeah.
any of those shameful labels.
No, it's just so many of us, and I totally did this. We're looking for the solutions to the thing that's not actually the problem. And so when we do that, then we're just destined to continue struggling, because we don't have like the target, as you said, focused on the right place. So this is just an opportunity for you to just, you know, call yourself forward on this and say, you know what, my self-esteem, right? Totally in my offers. Because if you can say that without, that doesn't mean you're a bad person, a bad coach, you're never going to be successful. It means none of that. It just means that's what's happening. And if that's what's happening, then you can do the work to actually create the solutions, versus buying another marketing program that's going to tell you how to get 5 high ticket clients by the end of this month, because it's not going to work. Take that same amount of money and invest it in whatever one-on-one support is going to help you untangle your self-esteem from your offers or from your work. And then you'll be able to charge what it is that you want from a clean, energetic place.
Yeah. The idea that we are the problem is, I think, really painful for a lot of people in any capacity, whether it's the context that we're talking about or anything else in life. The idea that we are the problem, that we are the bad person, that we are worthless, etc., is something that most of us, I believe, want to avoid because that's not a comfortable feeling. But it's also the most liberating reality if we recognize that even though we are the quote unquote problem, we're not a problem. You know, I use that word intentionally because that's the way we think about it. But we're not the problem, but we are at choice. We are responsible both ways. We are responsible for why we're not getting what we want, but inside that responsibility is the responsibility and capability to change. Because if we're not responsible for not getting what we want, then we also cannot be responsible for getting what we want. So if we're going to avoid our personal responsibility because it doesn't feel good, then we're also avoiding agency. We're avoiding the ability to change anything. So if this is the way it's hitting any of you, as it did me, and still does to some degree, as it did Michelle, as she said, and still does, I'm sure, to some degree, that's fantastic. That means your brain is probably operating properly. And here's the other thing, and we'll make this, we'll do our best to sell you on this idea that I'm about to say in another video, and because it's a much bigger one. But the more intense your insecurities are about all the things we're talking about, the better coach you're going to be. If you lean into that, and if you use your insecurities in a good way that's aligned with you, you're actually going to be a more powerful coach because of your insecurities.
Yeah.
Than if you didn't have them, or then getting over them, which I don't think is possible anyway. So I want you to see that your perceived imperfections, your perceived problems are actually your superpowers. But most people don't see it that way because of the programming and all the things that we've experienced in our lives. So if nothing else from this video you take away, you notice how I just kind of Shakespeared that. That was a really profound, like old English. If nothing else from thine video, ye take away.
It as well. You need a skull.
Right. Or a Yoda outfit.
Put your
This shall be the takeaway that you have. The things that we think make us wrong are actually the things that make us powerful. If we use them properly, if we change our relationship to them, if we take our self-esteem out of the offer and all the things we're talking about. So the problem is the possibility, because there's responsibility in both of them. So I just want you to take this, what might feel like and taste like a bitter pill. I want you to take it as the key to opening everything up, because it really, truly is. And if you are putting your self-esteem in the offer, then you are. And
Right.
I would be more concerned, honestly, if you didn't have this challenge than if you did, because most people do. And I still do. I know that there's still a piece of my self-esteem connected to people saying yes or no, people watching these videos, the bank account that is connected to this business, other people's opinions of me. There's still a piece of my self-esteem attached to all of this. Nowhere near as much as there used to be, which is the reason that we have so many videos on this channel, right? Which is the reason that I have internal permission to do a lot of the stuff. That doesn't mean that I no longer have insecurities, or that I no longer have self-esteem attachments. It's just, there's something bigger than my desire to protect my self-esteem now. And I think that concept is a really important one for everybody to get, because what we think is that the answer, if we identify our obstacles, the answer is to diminish the obstacles so that we just can walk over them, or we can just like easily ride over them with a skateboard, right? Because we dropped them all the way down to the ground and now they're flat. That's actually not the way that anybody that I'm aware of gets over their obstacles. It's about finding something that can overpower the obstacles. It's not about diminishing, decreasing, eliminating the obstacles entirely. So it's okay to have insecurity. It's okay to have fear. It's okay to have doubt. Use them as fuel and find something that can overpower the resistance, because it's, and when I say overpower, I don't mean from a motivational standpoint, to just temporarily overpower something, to just get you to do something that you really, truly don't want to do, because then you'll just have to overpower yourself every time there's an opportunity to take action. It's about over fueling yourself. Find something that's actually more meaningful to you than the self-preservation that's wrapped up inside of all those obstacles. And that's what you can use to fuel your mission. And a huge part of this is removing your self-esteem from the thing that you're offering, or from getting people to say yes or no. So the simple answer to this one, the simple solution, is that self-esteem detachment. Now, there is no easy solution to that, nor is there an assembly line solution to that, because each one of you is an individual and your self-esteem is wrapped around your success or money or status or what's the word? There's another word that I'm looking for that's really, it's related to status. It's, do you know the word
Nope.
I'm thinking of?
I'm
If
trying
it
to
comes
stay
to me,
out of that brain.
yeah, because I had a lobotomy earlier and it probably was
We took that.
sucked out in that lobotomy. But it's like a prestige is the word.
Oh, that's a good one.
Prestige. So your individual self-esteem is uniquely attached to any of those things, or maybe other things that we haven't mentioned yet. And we need to understand how our individual belief systems are created in order to unravel them, untie the knots that need to be untied. And there's just not an assembly line approach for that. All right. Now, if you got this far in the video, keep going. I believe in you. You can do it. There's part 2 right there. That's a kind of desperation as well, but that's a kind of desperation that inspires people to take action. And survival desperation in the coaching industry and anything that's related to